Hey, this is Dennis Fassett, the Casual Mercenary. Welcome to week 4 of the Renegades in Perspective. Last time I talked about the different kind of flavors of real estate and how I tried them all, and really when it came down to it, what I came up with was that rental real estate was the way to go for me. But it was really an interesting way that I got there. As you know from the past kind of installments of this, I spent a lot of time working, and I had to try and fit this in. And I have spent a lot of time in the last since I started real estate working. I've had just hugely stressful jobs, and everybody's got stress. I'm not complaining, but hugely stressful jobs, a lot of work hours, that type of thing, on location, driving all over the place. So I've had to focus a lot of time on work, but I've had to try to squeeze in my real estate business in on the side, so to speak. And so the way I started out was doing a lot of direct mail and chasing different kinds of direct mail leads. Again, this is somewhat before I even decided what kind of flavor I wanted to pursue. So I was chasing direct mail leads, and I sent out over, again, you may have heard this as part of my store, I sent out over 2,200 letters before I got my first deal. Now notice I didn't say before I got my first bite. I got a lot of bites from my letters, but to be honest, I was so foolish, stupid, new, whatever. I mean, that there was no possible way I was getting any of these deals when I was negotiating, because I was always pricing them way too low. So, it was kind of like I wanted to be risk-free, so I'm going to go, $20,000 below where I should be. And of course, I wasn't getting anything, so I couldn't fail. So I was preventing myself from failing by failing. So it was really very, very bizarre. So finally, got a lead from a guy, went to see him. He's kind of strange on the phone, very weird. Decided we weren't going to do business because I told him he ought to buy the house himself. And then he calls me back a week later and said, no, I can't do it. Turns out that it's a very sordid tale, but turns out he could not ultimately do this. And so we got back together, and I go over the house. I remember the day like it was yesterday. November. Cold, chilly. It was kind of dusk out, and this guy's living in a house without power. It's like, what is going on here? It turns out this guy's a massive drug addict. What had happened, this is funny, what had happened is that, maybe you won't think it's funny, but what had happened is that this guy had inherited the house from his mother. What happened to his mother? Well, she had died, and not just died, she'd been murdered in the house by the guy's brother, by her son. The son killed the mother in the house, in the living room, with, I think it was an electric guitar or something he beat her with, or something like that. It was unbelievable. And so the only reason why we were able to make a deal is because nobody else would buy this house. And so I said, well, it's a lot of risk here. And so I gave him a price that was just unbelievably low. And he said, okay. And because he talked to everybody else, nobody else would buy it. And it's like, cool. So I bought my first house I ever bought was a murder house. So how's that? And it's gone on to be a great rental for me. And it's been a very profitable house along the way. But it was interesting though. Before I decided to go the rental route, I had it under contract and was kind of trying to decide what to do. I had some offers to wholesale it, make a quick $5,000 or $10,000 on it or whatever, buy a wholesale deal. And then I talked to a guy who was kind of informally mentoring me during that time period. I said, hey, listen, what should I do about this house? Here's the numbers and stuff. He goes, you know what? If you're not going to keep it, buy it and keep it as a rental, sell it to me. I'll give you $10,000 for the contract right now, and I'll keep it. And I say, all right, if you would do that, I'm going to do that. And then I became a landlord right then and there and fell in love with it. And of course, the tenants I put in there were late with their first month's rent. Well, but that's a story for a different time. So that's how I got to be a landlord and a property owner for the first time. And interesting story, and it's a lot more sordid than that. Perhaps we can go into it another time. But that's it. I mean, it can take a long time to get your first deal. Don't give up. Keep doing what you can do to get the job done. If you're doing it like me with a day job, you're going to have to make compromises and do it in your spare time, and maybe direct mail works for you, but just pick something, stick with it, the results will come. This is Dennis Fassett, the Casual Mercenary. We'll talk again soon.